There are only a handful of weapons in Call of Duty that I truly love. Most weapons in this franchise, for me at least, are just very forgettable. Sure, there is a lot of very popular choices across all of the titles, but as I said, for me, there's only a few that truly stand above the rest, and one of those weapons is the M14. I know for a lot of you who have been around for a while will know just how much I love this thing, M14 gang for life and all that. And I realized not too long ago that I've never done an on every game video with the M14. So today, that changes. There are 4 games where the M14 features, with the last one being a tad controversial, but we'll get to that later. But of course, we start with Black Ops 1. Now, I may think that Black Ops 1 itself is kind of stinky, but it did introduce me to the M14, so I guess it gets a few points there. I also decided to do this run on Kino de Toten. I mean, I guess you can't feature this weapon and not play Kino, you know what I'm saying? We hung about in the spawn room for a few rounds after buying the M14 nice and early. It wasn't until the end of round 4, after amassing a good chunk of cheddar, when I left spawn. From here, I made it to the stage and got power turned on. At this point, I was too poor to buy Jug, so I flipped the round, but upon doing so, I got myself a nuke, meaning I could now buy Jug. Without Double Tap 2.0, the goal was to now get Pack-a-Punch up and running, and before someone says, oh, just go and buy Double Tap 1.0, no. That perk is useless in this game and a literal waste of points. In fact, there's only ever one single time, just one time, that perk is ever useful, and that is if you're using the HK21. That is the only time it's good because that gun fires at a literal snail's pace, and that is a hill I will die on. Alright, with that out of the way, I got to grinding up my points for Pack-a-Punch, but in round 6, I wanted to make things, much harder for myself, so I took a tactical down. Definitely meant that, just wanted a true challenge. Oh, God, I'm bad at this game sometimes. After reviving, I had enough points for Jug and Quick Revive, so I got them replenished, which meant I was back to square one when it came to getting Pack-a-Punch open. This then resulted in me going even more rounds without upgrading my gun. Now, that would have been fine if I was using something like the Galil, the FAMAS, RPK, but I was using an M14. A gun that has 8 bullets in the magazine and only 104 bullets in total, and zombies on this game like to eat bullets, so you could say the next few rounds were in fact a struggle, and it was only made worse on round 9 when the idiot in my brain took over. I have the points for Pack-a-Punch, I get to the teleporter and start teleporting. But I run out of the teleporter thinking it would still take me to Pack-a-Punch. Now I don't know why I thought that. I just did, and clearly it didn't take me. Which meant I had to wait even longer until I could upgrade my gun. Round 10 rolls around, the teleporter is recharged, and this time I stay put whilst it does its thing, and I finally get the M14 upgraded. The amnesia in hand, the teen rounds didn't stand much of a chance. For the first few rounds after pack-punching the M14 is a one-shot to the head. On about round 13 it becomes a two-shot, but it stays like that for the most of the remaining teen rounds, meaning they were a breeze. However, the M14 does struggle quite badly against the dogs, but they are built like mammoths in this game, so it's kinda understandable. We make our way into the 20s and the M14 isn't doing too bad. The damage is still good, but the one thing it is struggling with is ammo. I mean, that's pretty much always going to be the case with these older games, but ammo was the main issue. Only having about 200 rounds in total isn't the best thing in the world, especially when it's taking about 3 or so shots to kill a single enemy. Luckily, the M14 does have a decent penetration power, but it doesn't last. The fellas will know what I mean. Unfortunately, this game doesn't last much longer either, as I take it down early into round 21. I overextend my train a little bit and ultimately pay the price. Once I revive, I grab an insta-kill, which would have been more than enough to help me get my perks back, but I see a nuke. And the Black Ops 1 nuke is actually pretty good, so I go for it, only to have a bunch of crawlers take a nibble at my ankles, which ends up with me taking it down. Round 21 isn't the best, but we still have 3 more games to go to put up a decent round. Straight up, that decent round is not going to be on Black Ops 2. I don't really know what map would be good for an M14 only run on this game. I thought about Town, but we just recently did the MP5 only there, and I like to switch things up. I then landed on Nuketown, and I liked that idea. So I booted up Dire Eyes. I don't know either. I did, okay? Now, this admittedly was a mistake, but I'm a lazy sod, so I stuck with it. The first few rounds I stuck to spawn and the surrounding area. At the end of round 2 I picked up the M14 and continued to stick about, simply just so I could grind out the points for my perks once I got power turned on, as Die Rise can be an expensive map. I stayed in spawn until the end of round 5, however I did end up leaving with a little under 9,000 points, so I was feeling pretty groovy. We got power turned on and then got ourselves double tap. I didn't quite get a chance to see what the other perk was in the power room, so I used one of the keys, only to find out it was Mule Kick, which was a little disappointing. From here I headed to the roof in search of Jug, but instead I found Pack-a-Punch, where I then came very close to dying, as when I jumped down to upgrade my gun, there was just 3 zombies chilling, waiting for me to fall into their trap. Out of pure panic, I just blasted them with the pistol as an insta-kill was active, and don't come whining at me over using a different gun. You would have done the exact same thing, and don't lie, because I know you would have. The following round was a jumping jack round, so I jumped down into the tiny room in an attempt to try and get a free perk. The only thing I got was downed. As it turns out, shooting these little asshats, even while standing in one room, still quite difficult. I kept a hold of double tap after reviving, which I wasn't going to question. I then made my way back into the other building where I found Who's Who, just no, and reclaimed quick revive, and it's a very good job I did, as shortly later I fully screwed up my jump and missed the platform as I headed down the building, and I took another down. Once again, after reviving, double tap stuck around. I didn't have a Scooby-Doo as to where Jug was, so I just kept heading down until I landed by the A94 wall buy. I decided to hang around there just to get some more points, but what I didn't realize is what round I was on. Round 10 isn't the most dangerous round in the world, but when you're camped out like I was with basically no perks, and then throw a bunch of sprinters on top of that, it's basically just a matter of time as to when I took my final down, and well, that too fell on round 10. I wasn't lying when I said this run was a mess. Next up is Black Ops 3. Now Black Ops 3 may have the most overpowered version of the M14. The mod menu made a return, as it's only available in the box. But back to the power of the M14. The damage without Pack-a-Punch ranges from 100 to 210, which I'm assuming is just based on range. Now when you Pack-a-Punch the M14 into the Amnesia on Black Ops 3, it removes any damage drop-off, and the damage skyrockets all the way to 725. And by the way, I'm getting all this info from the Call of Duty wiki if you want to look it up for yourselves. Now 725 damage, yet again, doesn't really sound like a lot, but that's not the end of it, because the M14 has a 6.5 times headshot multiplier, meaning that its damage goes all the way up to 4,712.5. And guess what? It doesn't end there, because all of that damage is just from the gun itself. And when you add double tap 2.0 into the mix, which is just a flat 2 times multiplier to damage, the M14's headshot damage goes all the way up to a staggering 9,425, which is just a little ridiculous. That's enough damage, by the way, to one-shot zombies all the way up until round 33 with a normal gun. It's just wild. So yeah, it's just a little powerful. And yes, I did choose to do this on Origins. Possibly not the smartest move, but oh well. This run did also start off very good for us as well. By the end of round 6, all of the generators were turned on, and I also had 3 perks. Usually I wouldn't go for perks straight away on this map, as we of course have that round 8 Panzer to deal with, and having a Pack-a-Punch gun for that is always a good idea. But I was confident in the M14. Although right at the beginning of round 8 I got a death machine drop anyway, which I'm never going to turn down on a Panzer round. At the beginning of round 9, after dealing with the Panzer, I got the M14 upgraded and got to blasting. From this point on, there really wasn't anything that was going to stop me, especially when I got my hands on double tap on round 15, which I know is a bit late, but this thing didn't care, as it just brushed everything aside anyway. Also, yes, I did take an extra pack from my raindrops when I used it. Sue me. The M14 with double tap was pretty unstoppable. Even the Panzer wasn't an issue for this gun. Like, it wasn't the best at taking him down, but it didn't struggle either, and I cleared out the teen rounds within no time. And even during the 20s, the M14 just steamrolled everything. And yes, I know I stated its damage at the beginning of this section, but I didn't know what those damage numbers were whilst I was actually playing the game. I only learned those whilst I was writing this script. So at the time, I was just surprised to see how strong this gun actually was. All good things, however, don't last. On round 25, I end up taking my first down. I see no zombies in front of me, so I turn back to shoot those behind me, only to turn back around to about 3 zombies in my face, and well, I take the L. This down annoyingly also started a downward trajectory for this game. Everything after this was just awful. A lot of that mainly came from me trying to get double tap back without the excessive use of gobblegums. It did not work. And I didn't actually get the perk back until round 27 when I had to take a Packaholic. We go on for a few more rounds from that point, but around 29 I take another down. I'm taking out zombies and I just need to reload at a really unfortunate time, and I take the down. Whilst I am down, however, all of the zombies split to either side of me, so when I stand back up there's no escape and I'm as good as dead. So round 29 is the highest round so far, but there is one more game left where we probably are guaranteed to beat that. And that game is Cold War, where we have the DMR-14. And I know someone is going to be like, that's not the M14, you see it says DMR. Just shut up. It is the M14, just with a nice modern takeover, alright? I chose to do this on D Machine, which I know isn't the most difficult map, and this gun on this game can definitely handle enemies like the Panzer and the Abominations, but I just really like this map, okay? And I wanted to play it, so here we are. I also built my gun without a sight, which I'm not gonna lie, I pretty quickly regretted, as this thing's iron sights move around so much whilst you're shooting, which isn't great, but the damage is, so I wasn't really that bothered. And nothing really stands a chance when this gun's around, apart from round 6 when I took it down. Yes, we may have taken an early down and wasted our self-res, but it didn't stop me from getting a move on. And by the beginning of round 10, I had the whole map opened, pack-punched my gun, and I got armor as well as perks. So yeah, I was feeling pretty good. For the pack-punched M14 and dead shots, the zombies on this game did not stand a chance, and I blitzed the next 10 rounds. Those 10 rounds were so easy, I didn't even change anything about my setup until round 20, where all I did was upgrade my gun from tier 1 to tier 3 Pack-a-Punch. The M14 still wasn't maxed out, but my damage was already pretty insane, with my gun putting out a little over 20,000 damage with Deadshot, and without Deadshot, it was still putting out over 10,000 damage, which are some pretty good numbers. Round 26 saw the final upgrades, which boosted our damage an extra 6k and 3k depending if Deadshot was involved or not. The same round also saw me max out my perks, and now not only was my gun unstoppable, I also felt unstoppable too. And I was for many more rounds. The M14 is still a one-shot to regular zombies until I was well into the 30s. And speaking of the 30s, on round 34, I also got myself a second self-res, which was huge. As I was saying, the M14 was still cruising its way through these rounds, and honestly, regular zombies are never going to be an issue for this gun. It just obliterates them no matter what. Even the Megatons weren't really that big a deal to fight, with the only enemies to give me any real trouble being the armored zombies. They're probably down to the fact that I chose to run the task force barrel. I like to sit here and say that this was smooth sailing all the way to round 50, but it wasn't. On round 46, a Megaton spawns and I have an insta-kill and just tunnel vision the green guy, which results in me taking it down as he just beats the piss out of me. Like, straight up gives me the pimp slap to end all pimp slaps. There was a small bit of panic that followed, but thanks to Tesla Storm, I didn't really need to worry that much. Now, the remaining few rounds after were in fact a breeze, and before long, the M14 did make it all the way to round 50. But we didn't stop there, as I decided to take it a step further and beat round 50, giving me access to the exfil. We get it activated and make our way to the exfil zone, where my game takes a dump and crashes twice, giving me too many heart attacks, thinking that I was about to have my game die right at the end of what was a pretty good run, and now I will never be doing another exfil ever again. And there it is, round 50 with the M14. Clearly Cold War was always going to take the crown on this one, but the Black Ops 3 M14 is also a strong contender for the best version. Thank you very much for watching, don't forget to drop a like and let me know what other challenges you want to see, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.